Have you ever noticed something disturbing about life? The kindest people often suffer the most, while those who lie, cheat, and manipulate sometimes seem to win. If karma is real, why does the world look so unfair? One of the most unsettling mysteries of life is something many people notice but rarely speak about out loud. Sometimes, the kindest people seem to suffer the most. You may have seen it with your own eyes. A person who is honest, generous, and always willing to help others ends up carrying a life filled with struggles. They work hard, they try to do the right thing, they treat people with respect, yet disappointment keeps finding its way into their path. And then, almost as if life were playing a strange joke, you may also see the opposite. Someone who lies, manipulates, or takes advantage of others appears to live comfortably. They succeed in business, they gain influence, they seem to move through life without facing the consequences many believe they deserve. When you witness this contrast enough times, something begins to shift quietly inside your mind. A question appears. If the universe truly follows the law of cause and effect, why does reality look so different? Why do good people still suffer? Why do those who harm others sometimes appear to thrive? For some people, this question slowly grows into doubt. They begin to wonder if life is simply unfair by nature. Others start to feel that kindness is nothing more than a weakness in a world ruled by selfishness. And some eventually lose faith in the idea that goodness has any real value at all. But what if the problem is not that the law of cause and effect is wrong? What if the real problem is that we are only seeing a very small part of a much larger story? Because life, in many ways, is like opening a book in the middle of a chapter. On a single page, a character might appear to be suffering without reason. But when the entire story unfolds, the hidden connections begin to reveal themselves. Welcome to Daily Soul Compass, a place where we explore the deeper questions of life and search for the wisdom hidden within everyday experiences. If you enjoy reflecting on life, karma, and the unseen patterns that shape our journey, consider subscribing to the channel. Your support helps this channel continue creating meaningful stories that guide us all toward a clearer understanding of life. Before we continue, take a moment to reflect on this question. Why do you think good people sometimes suffer in life? A. Because life is fundamentally unfair and goodness does not guarantee happiness. B. Because what we see in the present moment is only a small fragment of a much larger process unfolding over time. Write A or B in the comments below. Your answer might reveal more about how you see the world than you realize. If we want to understand why life sometimes appears so unfair, we must first look deeper into how the law of cause and effect actually works. One of the most common misunderstandings about karma is the belief that it functions like an immediate transaction. Many people imagine it as a simple exchange. Do something good today, and tomorrow life will reward you. Do something wrong today, and punishment will quickly follow. But the deeper rhythms of life rarely move that quickly. Cause and effect in human life operates more like a natural process than a mechanical system. It unfolds slowly, quietly, and often far beyond the limits of what we can see in a single moment. In many ancient traditions, every human action is compared to planting a seed. But these seeds are not limited to visible actions alone. They are also planted through the thoughts we nurture and the words we speak. A moment of genuine kindness plants one kind of seed. A choice to act with integrity plants another. Even a silent intention of goodwill can begin shaping something beneath the surface. Yet seeds, by their very nature, require time. Some seeds sprout quickly after touching the soil. Others lie hidden beneath the earth for a long period before the right conditions allow them to grow. In the same way, the results of human actions do not all appear at the same speed. This is why life can sometimes look confusing when we judge it only by what is happening in the present. A person who behaves selfishly may appear to succeed for a time, but what we are witnessing might only be the visible result of earlier efforts, discipline, or opportunities they created long before. Meanwhile, the consequences of their harmful choices may still be developing quietly, waiting for the right moment to unfold. At the same time, someone who is now trying to live with honesty and compassion may still be facing the effects of older decisions, habits, or circumstances that have not yet fully resolved themselves. From a short-term perspective, this can make reality look inverted, as if goodness leads to hardship while selfishness leads to success. But when we expand the timeline of our understanding, the picture becomes far more intricate. Human life is not shaped by a single action. It is the result of thousands of small choices accumulating across time. Each thought influences our character. Each word shapes the relationships around us. Each action quietly alters the direction of our future. Most of these influences move invisibly, like currents beneath the surface of the ocean. We rarely notice them while they are forming, yet over time they reshape the entire landscape of a life. When we begin to understand this slower and deeper rhythm, the question shifts in an important way. Instead of asking why certain results appear today, we start asking a more meaningful question. What patterns have been forming beneath the surface of our lives, and what patterns are we continuing to create right now? Because whether we realize it or not, every moment of our lives is quietly planting something into the future. To understand this hidden rhythm of cause and effect more clearly, sometimes all it takes is a simple image from everyday life. Imagine a farmer standing alone in his field at the end of the harvest season. The air is quiet, the sun is low, and the rows of crops stretch out before him. Some sections of the field are full and strong, the plants tall and healthy. Other areas look thinner, less abundant, as if the soil there struggled to support what was planted. As the farmer looks across the land, he knows something that many people forget about life. What he sees today was not decided yesterday. The condition of the field was determined long before this moment ever arrived. Months earlier, perhaps even longer, he stood in the same place holding small seeds in his hands. At that time, the field looked empty and silent. There were no signs yet of what would eventually grow, but every seed carried a future within it. The farmer understood that once those seeds entered the soil, time would begin its quiet work. The earth would respond, the seasons would shift, the rains would fall, and slowly something invisible would begin unfolding beneath the surface. Weeks would pass before the first green shoots appeared. Even then, the harvest would still be far away, but the direction of the season had already been set. When the farmer returns during harvest, he does not feel surprised by what he sees. He may feel satisfaction or perhaps regret, but he understands that the outcome is connected to what was planted earlier. The field is simply revealing the consequences of those earlier choices. Human life often follows the same quiet logic. Many of the situations we encounter today were set in motion long before we became fully aware of them. Habits we developed years ago, attitudes we carried, the way we treated people, the small decisions we made day after day. All of these have a way of shaping the landscape of our lives over time. Sometimes the connection is obvious. A person who spends years building trust and helping others often finds themselves surrounded by support when difficult moments arrive. Opportunities appear through relationships that were formed long ago through simple acts of reliability and kindness. Other times, the connection is harder to see. A careless habit that once seemed harmless may slowly grow into a larger problem. A choice made in frustration or selfishness may quietly echo into future circumstances. Just like the farmer's field, life often reveals its results only after a long period of silent growth. But there is also something quietly beautiful about this process. Seeds of kindness have a way of traveling farther than we expect. A small act of generosity offered to someone today may plant something within their life that continues spreading long after the moment has passed. That person may help someone else, who then influences another life, creating a chain of goodwill that eventually circles back in ways we could never predict. What appears from the outside as coincidence or unexpected fortune may sometimes be the quiet return of something that was planted long ago. When we begin to see life through this lens, patience becomes easier. Instead of expecting immediate results from every action, we start to understand that the most meaningful harvests often require time, care, and faith in processes we cannot fully see. And just like the farmer preparing his land for the next season, each day quietly gives us another opportunity to choose what we will plant next. And once we begin to see life through this lens, another question quietly emerges, one that goes far deeper than the mystery of cause and effect. If the harvest of our lives unfolds over time, then what role does suffering play in that process? For many people, suffering feels like a contradiction. We naturally believe that if someone tries to live honestly, treats others with kindness, and avoids harming those around them, life should reward them with peace and stability. When pain enters such a life, it can feel like a violation of that expectation. Yet when we look closely at the lives of people who carry great wisdom and depth, we often discover a surprising pattern. Their understanding of life was rarely formed during easy seasons. It was shaped during the moments when life forced them to pause, question, and look inward. There are lessons that comfort rarely teaches. A person may go through most of their early years assuming that the world will always move according to their expectations. But when loss arrives, whether it is the loss of a relationship, a dream, or a sense of security, something shifts inside them. Suddenly, they begin to see life with greater clarity. Someone who has experienced betrayal often develops a deeper understanding of trust and human nature. Someone who has endured hardship may discover a resilience within themselves that they never knew existed. A person who has faced deep pain may become far more compassionate toward the struggles of others. In this way, suffering sometimes acts less like a punishment and more like a turning point. It interrupts the illusion that life is simple and predictable. It slows us down long enough to ask questions we might otherwise avoid. It forces us to examine what truly matters and what does not. Without these moments of difficulty, many people might continue moving through life on the surface, never fully discovering their own depth. But hardship alone does not automatically create wisdom. Two people may face the same painful experience, yet walk away with very different outcomes. One person may become bitter, convinced that life has treated them unfairly. They close their hearts, withdraw from others, and carry resentment forward into every future moment. Another person may pass through the same storm, but choose a different response. Instead of allowing pain to harden them, they allow it to deepen their understanding. They become more patient, more thoughtful, more aware of the fragile nature of every human life. The difference between these two paths is not the suffering itself. It is the meaning each person chooses to create from that experience. And this leads to one of the most important reflections we can have about our lives. Perhaps the most meaningful question is not why good people suffer. Hardship is a part of every human journey, and no life is completely free from it. The deeper question is this: when those difficult seasons arrive, who do we decide to become? Do we allow disappointment to erode our values, convincing us that kindness is pointless? Or do we continue to live with integrity even when the rewards are not immediately visible? Over the long arc of a life, it is not a single moment of success or failure that defines a person. What ultimately shapes a human story is the quiet pattern of choices made again and again, especially during the times when it would be easier to abandon what we believe. And sometimes the people who have walked through the greatest darkness become the ones who understand the light most clearly. When we step back and look at the entire journey we have explored, a clearer picture of life begins to appear. The world may sometimes seem confusing when we judge it only by what is happening in the present moment. We see kindness followed by hardship and selfishness followed by success. And it is easy to assume that life is unfair or that goodness has no real value. But when we look deeper and allow ourselves to see life as a long unfolding process rather than a single moment in time, many of these contradictions begin to make more sense. Every thought we nurture, every word we speak, and every action we take quietly plants something into the future. Just like seeds placed into the soil, some of these choices grow quickly, while others take much longer before their effects appear. During that waiting period, it can sometimes feel as if nothing is happening at all. Yet beneath the surface, life is constantly responding to what has been planted. The deeper lesson here is not simply about karma or consequences. It is about awareness. It reminds us that the quality of our lives is shaped gradually by the patterns we repeat each day. The small decisions we make when no one is watching, the way we treat people when we gain nothing from it, and the patience we maintain during difficult seasons all become part of the invisible structure of our future. Applying this wisdom in everyday life is simpler than it might seem. Instead of worrying about immediate results, focus on the seeds you are planting right now. Choose honesty when it would be easier to lie. Offer kindness even when the world feels cold. Continue building integrity even when recognition is slow to come. Over time, these choices form a foundation that supports a life of deeper meaning and inner peace. Before we end, here is a simple question to reflect on. In your opinion, what matters more in the long run? The results we see today, or the values we choose to live by every day? Please share your thoughts in the comments below so everyone can read different perspectives and learn from one another. And if you enjoy exploring meaningful questions about life and personal growth, consider subscribing to the channel to support Daily Soul Compass. Your support helps keep these conversations alive and allows us to continue creating thoughtful content for future videos.